The hotel bar was closing down, and I was still trying to convince myself that everything was fine. My husband sat across from me, staring into his whiskey like it held answers to questions he'd never thought to ask before tonight. The silence between us was louder than the reunion party we'd just left. "Say something," I finally whispered. He looked up, and in his eyes, I saw 20 years of marriage begin to fracture. "I don't even know who you are." The Riverside High School class of 2004 reunion had started like any other. Awkward small talk, shocked reactions to weight gain and hair loss, exaggerated career accomplishments. I'd been dreading it for months, but Brad had insisted. He loved these things, loved meeting the people who'd shaped me before he came along. If only I'd been honest about exactly how they'd shaped me. We lived in Columbus now, far enough from my hometown of Youngstown that I rarely had to think about high school. I'd built a careful life, marketing director at a nonprofit, member of the PTA, wine club with the neighborhood wives. Brad knew me as Samantha, the devoted wife, the woman who needed 3 dates before she'd even kiss him, who made him wait 6 months before we slept together. He didn't know Sammi. Nobody in Columbus knew Sammi. But Youngstown remembered. "Holy shit, Sammi Stevens!" The voice hit me before I saw him. Derek Hoffman, still wearing that same cocky grin from high school, already 3 beers deep. "Guys, get over here, it's Sammi!" A crowd formed, faces I'd hoped never to see again. Brad squeezed my hand, smiling his friendly smile, ready to meet these pieces of my past. I felt like I was drowning on dry land. "This your husband?" Derek threw an arm around Brad's shoulders like they were old friends. "Buddy, you married a legend," he slurred. "This girl was the wildest." "We should find our table," I interrupted, pulling Brad away. But it was too late. The stories had already started flowing, and alcohol made them louder. At dinner, we sat with my old crowd. I'd tried to steer us anywhere else, but Brad was confused by my panic, and I couldn't explain without explaining everything. So we sat, and I watched my carefully constructed life begin to crumble. "Remember that party at Connor's lake house?" Melissa laughed, wine sloshing in her glass. "When Sammi did that strip show on the dock." Brad's hand stilled on his fork. "Strip show?" "It wasn't a strip show," I said quickly. "Just a stupid dare." "Oh, please," Melissa continued, oblivious to my desperate eyes. "You gave those boys a full show. What was the bet? $20 per item of clothing?" "30, Connor corrected from across the table. "Made like $200 that night." Brad turned to look at me. I couldn't meet his eyes. The stories kept coming, a relentless tide of my past, each one worse than the last. The time I hooked up with 3 different guys at one party. The senior trip where I skinny dipped with half the football team, the nickname they'd given me, Sure Thing Sammi. That made Brad's jaw clench. "That's enough," I finally said, voice shaking. "That was 20 years ago. People change." "Oh, come on," Derek laughed. "Don't act all prudish now. Remember when you—" I said enough. I stood up, napkin falling to the floor. "Brad, let's go." But Brad wasn't moving. He was staring at Derek with an expression I'd never seen before. "What were you going to say? What does my wife remember?" Derek looked between us, finally sensing the tension. "Nothing, man. Just stupid kid stuff." "No," Brad said quietly. "I want to hear it. What were you going to say?" The table fell silent. Derek shifted uncomfortably. "Look, it was just, there was this thing senior year. A competition between some of the guys. My blood turned to ice. Not this story. Anything but this story." "What kind of competition?" Brad's voice was deadly calm. "Brad, please," I begged. "Let's just go." "The guys had this bet," Connor said, too drunk to read the room, "about who could get Sammi to do the wildest stuff. Points for different acts, you know. Derek won with that thing in the equipment shed." "The equipment shed?" Brad repeated the words like they were foreign. "Points for different acts." It wasn't like that, I said desperately. They're making it sound worse. Worse? Brad finally looked at me. How could it sound worse? They used you for a game, and you let them. I was 18. I was stupid and insecure and thought it meant they liked me. Did you know? His voice was so quiet I almost missed it. About the competition? Did you know what they were doing? The truth sat heavy on my tongue. I'd found out about the point system halfway through senior year. And I'd kept playing along, desperate for attention, for validation, for the twisted version of popularity that came with being wanted by everyone. Yes, I whispered. Eventually, I knew. Brad stood up slowly, deliberately, pulled out his wallet, threw cash on the table. I need some air. I followed him out to the parking lot, heels clicking on asphalt, 20 years of carefully buried shame rising in my throat. Brad, wait, please. He stopped by our car, hands braced on the roof. 20 years of marriage, and I'm just now learning who I married. You married me, Samantha. Not the stupid girl I was in high school. Are you sure? He turned around, and the pain in his eyes broke me. Because the woman I married told me she'd only been with 2 people before me. The woman I married said she wanted to wait because intimacy meant something to her. The woman I married sure as hell never stripped for money or got passed around as part of a game. I'm not that person anymore. Then why didn't you tell me? His voice cracked. All these years, Sam. All these years of feeling like I had to beg for anything beyond missionary position. All these years of you acting like oral was some huge favor. All these years of, I'm just not that adventurous, Brad. That's different. Is it? Because it sounds like you were plenty adventurous. Just not with me. Not with your husband. The accusation hung between us like a blade. How could I explain that I'd overcorrected? That I'd swung so far in the opposite direction, terrified he'd see the real me and leave? That every time he suggested trying something new, all I could hear were those high school boys laughing, comparing notes, tallying points? I was protecting our marriage, I tried. I didn't want to be that girl with you. I wanted to be someone worthy of respect. So you lied. For 20 years, you lied. I didn't lie. Omission is still a lie, Sam. Every time I felt bad for wanting more, for pushing boundaries you'd already crossed 100 times, that was a lie. Every time you made me feel like some pervert for suggesting things you'd done freely with strangers, that was a lie. A group from the reunion stumbled out, laughing loudly. I recognized them. More witnesses to my past. Brad saw them too, saw how they looked at me, and something in his face closed off completely. Get in the car, he said. We're going home. The 2-hour drive back to Columbus was excruciating. Brad drove in complete silence, knuckles white on the steering wheel. I stared out the window, watching Ohio darkness fly by, trying to figure out how to salvage this. I'm sorry, I said as we pulled into our garage. For what? He killed the engine but didn't move. For lying? For the past? For making me feel like I was asking too much when you'd already given it all away for free? That's not fair. Fair? He laughed, bitter and sharp. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been knowing who I was marrying. Fair would have been honesty. Fair would have been not finding out from your drunk classmates that my wife was the school. He cut himself off, his jaw clenched so tight a muscle jumped. Say it, I challenged, anger finally breaking through shame. The school slut, that's what you're thinking, isn't it? Your words, not mine. But you're thinking it. Saint Brad, so pure and perfect, can't handle that his wife had a past. A past? He finally looked at me. Sam, everyone has a past. This isn't about you having experiences. This is about the lies, the manipulation, the way you made me feel guilty for wanting a fraction of what you gave away to people whose names you probably don't remember. I remember their names, I said quietly. Every single one. They were burned into my memory, a roster of my desperation. Great. That makes it so much better. We sat in the garage, engine ticking as it cooled, 20 years of marriage cooling with it. I need space, Brad said finally. I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. Brad, please. Don't throw away our marriage over this. Over something that happened before we even met. I'm not throwing anything away. He got out of the car, grabbed his gym bag from the trunk. I just need to think, figure out if I even know the woman I married. You know me, I insisted, following him into the house. You know who I am now. Who I've been for 20 years. Do I? Because the Samantha I know would never... God, Sam, the things they described. The casualness of it all. Like you were just party entertainment. I was 18. I was insecure. I thought that was the only way to be valued. And at 38? What's your excuse for lying to me our entire marriage? I had no answer for that. Brad moved through our bedroom, throwing clothes into his bag. I watched from the doorway, paralyzed by the sight of my life unraveling. What do you want me to say? I finally asked. That I was wild in high school? Fine, I was. That I did things I'm ashamed of? I did. That I let boys use me because I didn't know any better? Guilty. But I changed, Brad. I grew up. I became someone better. Someone better? He zipped the bag, turned to face me. Or someone fake. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you just became a really good liar. That's not... Every time, he cut me off. Every single time I suggested something new, something fun, something couples do, you shut me down, made me feel like I was asking for something dirty, something wrong. Do you have any idea what that does to a person? To constantly feel like you're too much for your own wife? I was trying to be different. You were lying. To both of us. He shouldered the bag, moved past me. I'll call you in a few days. We'll figure out something. Brad. I followed him down the stairs. Please, let's talk about this. He paused at the front door. Talk? Sure, let's talk. Let's talk about how you gave more of yourself to random guys at parties than to your husband. Let's talk about how you made me wait 6 months while telling me you wanted to do things right when really you just didn't want me to know what you'd already done wrong. Let's talk about 20 years of feeling inadequate because my wife couldn't possibly be that kind of girl, when it turns out that's exactly the kind of girl she was. Just not for me. The door closed behind him with a quiet click that sounded like an ending. I stood in our foyer, surrounded by the life we'd built. Family photos, kids' artwork, the grandfather clock his parents gave us for our 10th anniversary. All of it felt like a movie set now. Props in a performance I'd been giving for 2 decades. My phone buzzed. A Facebook notification. Melissa had tagged me in reunion photos. There I was, frozen in digital amber, trying so hard to disappear while my past caught up with me. The comments were already starting. Sammy Stevens, can't believe you showed up. Still looking good, girl. Remember when I deleted Facebook from my phone. The house felt enormous without Brad. I wandered from room to room, seeing our life together differently now. Had I really been so rigid, so closed off? I thought I'd been protecting us, building a marriage on respect instead of lust. But maybe I'd just been punishing myself and him in the process. I found our wedding album, flipped through photos of the woman I'd tried so hard to become. Modest dress, conservative smile, surrounded by college friends who didn't know about Sammy. Brad's face in every photo, looking at me like I was precious. Maybe because I'd made myself that way. Untouchable, pure, nothing like the girl who'd degraded herself for attention. But wasn't that just another performance? Trading one extreme for another, never finding the truth in between? My phone rang. Not Brad, I knew he wouldn't call tonight. My sister in Oregon, the only family member who knew the full truth about high school. So? Olivia asked without preamble. How bad was it? He left. Went to a hotel. Oh, Sam, I'm sorry. He says I've been lying our entire marriage. Haven't you? The simple question hit harder than Brad's anger. I thought I was protecting us. From what? From him knowing you completely? From being yourself? You don't understand, I said. If you'd seen his face when they told those stories. The disgust. The disappointment. Was it disgust at what you did? Or at finding out from strangers at a reunion? I couldn't answer that. Didn't want to examine it too closely. Sam, Olivia said gently, you've spent 20 years punishing yourself for being a confused teenager. And you've punished Brad, too. Made him feel like his desires were too much when really you were just terrified of being that girl again. Maybe it's time to stop. It's too late for that. Is it? Or is that just another story you're telling yourself? After we hung up, I sat in my perfect living room in my perfect house, thinking about stories. The story I'd told Brad about being selective, careful with intimacy. The story I'd told myself about becoming someone better. The story I was writing now, where I was the victim of my past instead of the author of my present. Brad didn't come home the next night, or the next. He texted brief messages about needing time, about staying at the Marriott downtown. I drove by once, saw his car in the parking lot, wanted to go up and beg. But what would I say? That I was sorry for lying, for pretending, for making him feel less than while hiding my own shame? Work became unbearable. Every meeting, every presentation, I felt like a fraud. The competent professional persona I'd crafted seemed as false as everything else. My assistant asked if I was okay. I told her I had a cold. The reunion photos kept surfacing on social media. Group shots where I looked stiff and uncomfortable next to people who remembered exactly who I'd been. Comments rolling in from classmates I'd hoped never to think about again. Great seeing you, Sammi. You haven't changed a bit. But I had changed. So completely that I'd lost myself in the transformation. Brad finally called on day 4. We need to talk. In person. Come home, I said immediately. Please. No, somewhere neutral, that coffee shop on High Street. Tomorrow at 10. I arrived 15 minutes early, chose a corner table, ordered tea I wouldn't drink. When Brad walked in, he looked exhausted. Older. Like the past 4 days had aged him years. Hi, I said stupidly. Hi. He sat down, ordered black coffee. We stared at each other across the small table like strangers. I've been thinking, he finally said. About us. About everything. And I keep coming back to the same question. Who are you, really? I'm your wife, the mother of your children. Are you? Or are you just playing another role? The reformed party girl playing house? That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair, Sam. He rubbed his face, looking older than his 42 years. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not even the sexual stuff. It's realizing that you've been performing for me our entire marriage, that every time you turned me down, every time you acted like I was pushing too hard, you were just playing a character. The respectable wife. The woman who would never... I wasn't performing. Then what would you call it? 20 years of pretending to be someone you're not. I was trying to be better. Better than what? Better than a teenager who made mistakes? Better than a human being with desires and a past? He leaned forward. Sam, I didn't need you to be perfect. I needed you to be real. You wouldn't have married me if you knew the real me. How can you know that? You never gave me the chance to decide. The truth of it sat between us like a third person at the table. I'd made the choice for both of us, decided what he could and couldn't handle, built our entire relationship on that assumption. I was so ashamed, I whispered, of who I'd been, what I'd done. I wanted to be someone else, someone worthy of being loved. You were always worthy of being loved. His voice cracked. But you never believed it. So you created this whole other person, and that's who I fell in love with. And now I don't know if that person even exists. She exists. I'm sitting right here. Are you? Because the woman I married would never have done those things at the reunion, but apparently she did. So either you've been lying about who you are or you've been lying about who you were. Either way, we built our marriage on lies. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but he was right. Every carefully crafted boundary, every modest refusal, every time I'd made him feel demanding for wanting what I'd freely given away, it had all been lies. I don't know how to fix this, I admitted. Neither do I. He finished his coffee, stood up. I've been thinking about moving out for a while. Getting an apartment. Brad, no, please, the kids. The kids are in college. They'll adjust. He pulled out his wallet, left money for the coffee. We need space, real space, to figure out who we are without the lies. How long? I don't know, as long as it takes. For what? For me to figure out if I can trust you again. If I can get past the feeling that our entire marriage has been you settling for someone safe while remembering someone exciting. He looked at me one last time. And for you to figure out who you actually are. Not who you were at 18, not who you've been pretending to be. Who you actually are. He left me sitting there with my cold tea and the wreckage of 20 years. The apartment Brad rented was across town, a modern one-bedroom that felt like a hotel. I helped him move some things, both of us polite and distant, like business partners dissolving a company. The kids took it hard. Becca called from Ohio State, crying, demanding explanations we couldn't give. Tyler, at community college and still living at home, retreated into silence and video games. It's temporary, I told them. We just need some space to work through some issues. But weeks turned into months. Brad came for Sunday dinners. We attended Tyler's basketball games together, kept up appearances at necessary functions. But the ease was gone, replaced by careful choreography. Two people who knew all the steps but had forgotten the music. I started therapy. Dr. Martinez listened without judgment as I unpacked 20 years of performance. Why did you feel you had to hide who you were? She asked. Because who I was wasn't good enough. Not for someone like Brad. What made you think that? Everyone knew. In high school, what I was, what I did, I was a joke, a game, points on a scoreboard. You were a teenager looking for validation in unhealthy ways. That doesn't define your worth. But it had defined me. Every choice I'd made since had been in reaction to those years. Swinging from one extreme to another, never finding balance. I turned Brad into another judge, I realized one session. Made him the audience for my performance as the perfect wife. And when the performance failed, he felt betrayed. Not by your past, but by your present. By the lies. Spring came with divorce papers. Not a surprise. Brad had been transparent about meeting with lawyers. Still, seeing it in black and white felt like a death. I don't want this, I said when he came to discuss details. I don't either, but I can't stay married to someone I don't know. You know me? I know Samantha Coleman, the character you created. But Sammy Stevens, the real person underneath, I have no idea who she is, and I don't think you do either. He was right. I'd buried her so deep I'd forgotten she existed. Forgotten that she might have grown up naturally, found balance, become someone integrated and whole instead of split between extremes. 20 years, I said softly. Don't they count for something? They count for everything. Which is why this hurts so much. He signed his copies, slid them across the kitchen island we'd picked out together. I loved you, Sam. But I can't compete with ghosts. Can't keep feeling like I'm not enough when the truth is you just won't let me be. After he left, I sat in my empty house thinking about ghosts. The ghost of 18-year-old Sammy, desperate for love in all the wrong places. The ghost of 25-year-old Samantha, so determined to be different, she became someone else entirely. The ghost of a marriage built on a foundation of shame and lies. The divorce finalized in autumn. I kept the house, Brad insisted, said the kids needed stability. He bought a condo closer to work, started dating a woman from his CrossFit gym. Someone age-appropriate and drama-free, Becca reported. Someone who knew who she was. I ran into Derek at Kroger during Thanksgiving week. He was back in Columbus for the holidays, paunch around his middle, wedding ring on his finger. "Sammy," he said, uncertain. "Heard about you and Brad." "I'm sorry, I hope the reunion didn't—" "It wasn't your fault," I said, meaning it. "It was going to come out eventually." "Still, we were assholes in high school, the whole point system thing. I'm not proud of it. We were all just kids trying to figure it out. Some of us did more damage than others." He shifted uncomfortably. "For what it's worth, you deserved better. Than how we treated you, than how you treated yourself." "Yeah," I agreed. "I did." The house sold in spring. Tyler had transferred to Ohio State, joined his sister. Empty nest in an empty marriage in an empty life. I bought a smaller place, started fresh, joined a hiking group, took pottery classes, tried to figure out who I was at 40 without the weight of performance. "How are you doing?" Olivia asked during one of our weekly calls. "I don't know," I admitted. "Some days good, some days I feel like I wasted 20 years. "Not wasted, just misdirected." I should have told him. "From the beginning." "Yes, but you didn't, and beating yourself up about it won't change anything." She was right. But knowledge and acceptance were different things. I saw Brad one last time at Becca's graduation. He was there with Catherine, the CrossFit woman. She was pretty in an uncomplicated way, laughed easily, touched him casually. All the things I'd trained myself not to be. "You look good," he said when we had a moment alone. "Thanks, you too." He did. Lighter somehow, like he'd set down a weight he'd been carrying. "The kids say you're doing well. The new job, the hiking." "I'm trying." I watched Catherine talking to our daughter, natural and easy. "She seems nice." "She is. Very straightforward, no surprises." "That's good. You deserve that. Sam Dash." "I know," I stopped him. "I know, I'm glad you're happy. Really." And I was, even if it broke my heart a little. The reunion had been 2 years ago. 2 years of therapy, of divorce, of rebuilding. I still sometimes woke up reaching for Brad, still heard echoes of high school laughter in quiet moments, but I was learning to live with all of it. The shame and the growth. The girl who'd done anything for attention and the woman who'd done everything to hide her. Integration, Dr. Martinez called it. Accepting all parts of yourself instead of rejecting them. I wasn't there yet. Maybe I'd never fully be. But I was trying to stop performing, stop hiding, stop splitting myself into acceptable and unacceptable pieces, trying to find out who I might have been if I'd never started pretending. The reunion invitation for next time came marked, "Save the date 25th reunion." I threw it in the trash. Some performances didn't deserve an encore. But late at night, scrolling through social media, I sometimes saw them. The classmates who'd witnessed my destruction, both the original and the replay. And I wondered what would have happened if I'd just been honest from the start. If I'd told Brad on our third date about Thing Sammi, and the point system, and the equipment shed. If I'd trusted him to love me anyway. But that was another ghost story. The story of what might have been if I hadn't been so convinced I needed to be someone else to be loved. If I hadn't made my husband a stranger to protect him from my past. If I hadn't confused performance with growth, lies with love. And I had spent 2 decades performing the part of the perfect wife in a beautiful life, convinced I'd buried that 18-year-old girl for good. But when the curtain fell at that reunion, I realized I was the only one who had forgotten it was just an act, leaving me stranded on an empty stage. Some stories don't get happy endings. Sometimes they just get endings.